Hand and power tools are a common part of our everyday lives and are present in nearly every industry. These tools help us to easily perform tasks that otherwise would be difficult or impossible. Humans have relied on tools to overcome challenges, accomplish tasks, and improve their way of life. From the earliest makeshift tools to the advanced machinery of the modern era, tools have evolved and become more sophisticated, reflecting our growing needs and technological advancement. Safety rules in the workplace are important because they protect employees, customers, and the company's brand reputation. Enforcing safety rules can reduce on-the-job accidents and injuries and maximize productivity. Limiting risk can improve the work environment and job satisfaction of employees.
Hammers are such a basic tool that it may seem like they need no explanation, but it is important to know how to use one safely and effectively. To maximize the hammer's power, grip the handle closer to its bottom. Using a full arm motion, swing the hammer from the elbow, not the wrist. This lets the weight of the hammer do the bulk of the work and directs more force to the nail head, driving it in faster. As you swing, focus your eyes on the nail head. This will improve your aim, and keeping your arm bent ensures the hammer strikes the nail flat. If you're bending the nails, you're coming in at too much of an angle. The claw pries up nails and slips under edges of objects. To protect the surface when you're prying up nails, slip a shim or scrap of wood under the hammer. You can also do this for leverage when a nail is too long. Having the right hammer for your project is important too, and there are several types to choose from.
Alright, today I'm going to show you how to use a screwdriver. Right here I have a screwdriver, alright? This is a tool that you're probably going to find in your toolbox. A screwdriver is probably the most essential tool that you may have around your house besides a hammer. So this is a screwdriver and this is a screw. Now this is just a demonstration on how you would be using it. So like the real life, you're going to actually use it on the wall. So right here's a screw. And this is a screwdriver. Do you see how it has a cross section? And if you look at the screwdriver, it actually has a star shape right here. So what you do is you take the screwdriver and you fit it within the socket of the screw, and you either turn right or clockwise to tighten the screw, or counterclockwise to loosen the screw. And this is how you use a screwdriver. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments. Just let me know. All right? Thanks a lot.
With the right tools and proper technique, drilling into masonry and concrete is easier than you think. Here's what you'll need to get the job done. First, mark the spot where you want to drill the hole. Next, set the depth stop on the drill 1/4 inch longer than the depth needed for the hole. Then, fit the hammer drill with a carbide masonry bit in the appropriate size. To make a guide hole, grip the drill in one hand and brace the tool with the other, using the handle or back of the drill. Position the bit and start the drill at its lowest speed, while pushing forward with steady pressure until you reach 1/4 inch depth. Occasionally pull out the bit and blow or vacuum out the dust. Now, replace the drill in the guide hole and run it at medium speed. Stop when the desired depth is reached. To finish up the process, simply add your hanging hardware per product guidelines.
With a few pointers and a little practice, it's simple to master the basic technique of using a handsaw. Here's how. You're going to start by getting a small notch going. Now the saw will leave a kerf, the groove left behind by the blade teeth. So start a bit to the waist side of the cut line. You can always sand down the edge if it's a little too long. Hold your saw correctly, about a 45-degree angle to where you're cutting. Keep your elbow close to your body to keep the cut straight and prevent the blade from wobbling. Pointing out your forefinger along the grip helps get a more accurate cut. Keep the blade straight. Take long strokes to use the full length of the blade. Don't press down heavily on the saw or it will bind. Let the saw do the work for you. Here are a few more tips. Clamp a scrap of wood along your cut line. It helps keep the blade in line and protects the surface if your saw skips. If the wood is pinching in or behind the cut, the saw can bind. Stick a nail in the kerf as you go to prevent this. Cut with a shallow angle when you're cutting wet wood or when you get toward the end of your cut to finish it off smoothly. Use a sharp blade and make sure you're using the right saw for the job. There are a couple of things you'll learn quickly when you're using power sanders. Use one with too little power for the task, and it can take forever. Too much power, and you'll see how fast you can ruin your project. That's where it's good to have a random orbit sander. It falls somewhere in between a heavy-duty belt sander and a light-duty finish sander. They may have a pistol grip, right angle grip, or a palm grip, but they're distinguishable by the disc-shaped sanding pad. Depending on the type you have, you'll install the sanding sheet with a peel and stick adhesive or a hook and loop disc. This round sanding pad vibrates in tiny loops, and at the same time, it spins in circles. This prevents swirl marks, and it also works fast. So hold the sander firmly. It's strong enough to skip away on you, but don't press down on it. Just use the weight of your arm. You want to cover the surface evenly, so you can use pencil marks as a guide and keep it moving at an even, smooth pace, about 1 inch per second. And overlap your passes, letting less than half the pad go past the edge. Don't press on it. You'll create scratches and you'll also slow the machine down. Also, don't let dust build up. It prevents the sander from doing its job. Keep the dust collector clean or hook up a shop vac. This lets the sander work faster and keeps the air cleaner. Don't tilt it. Keep it level or you'll leave marks or you could round off edges. The Random Orbit sander has the power to remove wood quickly, but it's not as aggressive as a belt sander, and its motion prevents swirl marks that you can get with a finish sander. That makes it useful for DIYers, especially for these tasks. If you've got an uneven surface that needs smoothing out over rough spots after using a belt sander, or quickly sanding a surface when you're working from rough to finer grit sandpapers. Here are some more helpful tips. Always wear eye protection, hearing protection, and a dust mask. You'll usually find 5 or 6 inch sized discs. If you're a serious DIYer, go for the 6-inch disc. It'll make your job faster. The hook and loop pads tend to be more expensive, but they're faster to change than adhesive pads. Unplug the tool before changing the pads or emptying the dust collector so you don't hit the trigger accidentally. Check the trigger to be sure it's in the off position before plugging it in, and never rest the sander on your project. There's nothing more irritating than having to redo a step in your project because you were in a rush and measured wrong. We've all made this mistake, so it's good to know how marking and measuring tools can help you get the job done faster and more accurately. Now, a light-duty tape measure may seem convenient because of its size, but heavier-duty tape measures have some features that make them more versatile and easy to use. Look at the markings. Quarters, eighths, and sixteenths of an inch should be marked clearly. If you need more precision, you can get one that goes down to 30 seconds. Large markings and high contrast colors make it easier to see the increments. But with the fractional measurements printed right on the tool, there's even less room for error. Self-centering tape measures have a foolproof way to find the halfway point of a measurement. The halfway point is labeled just below the full measurement. Check the blade standout. If it extends 9 to 10 feet before it snaps, you'll be able to take large measurements without relying on a helper. The hook at the end of a tape has some play to get an accurate read both inside and outside of the measurements. It compensates for the gap at the end. If the tab bends or breaks, it's time to replace it. A little torpedo level is great to have for straightening pictures, hanging small items, or quick checks. Longer levels are even more accurate than shorter levels, and they're great for marking long, level, straight edges. A box-shaped level resists twisting and bending, so it's generally longer lasting than an eye-shaped one. A laser level is a great time saver when you're installing chair rail, wallpapering, painting wall stripes, or hanging pictures along a stairwell. Here are a couple of more tips to help you choose the right tool. A magnetic feature on your tape measure or level is handy when working with metal studs or ductwork. Now you want to get yourself one of these. It's a carpenter's pencil. It's flat, so it won't roll off of your work surface.
Once you've measured your workpiece, you can read the caliper to determine the value of the measurement. There are 2 sets of graduations on a vernier caliper. On inch calipers like this one, the main scale is marked in 0.025 inch intervals and is read directly by finding the last graduation passed by the 0 mark on the sliding jaw. The vernier scale is located on the sliding jaw. The number of lines is not the same for all calipers, but on most current inch vernier calipers you'll find 25 graduations, for a final graduation of 0.001 inches. Reading the caliper is a 2-step process. First, look at the 0 mark on the sliding scale and find the graduation that it last passed. In this case, it passed the 5 and then 2 more hash marks, so that's 0.55 inches. To read the vernier scale, note how the lines on the scale match up with the lines on the main scale. The way that the scale is made, only one of these lines will match up correctly. In this case, the 15 matches up correctly. So that's 0.015 inches. The final reading is the sum of these two readings, so that's 0.550 inches and 0.015 inches, for a final reading of 0.565 inches.
Workshops are spaces designated for the production and repairing of manufactured goods to take place. They are much smaller in scale relative to large industrial factories and common among residencies for supporting craft hobbies and small businesses. Workshop layouts vary upon the nature of the activities taking place in them and are typically categorized accordingly. Common workshop layouts include woodworking shops, plastic shops, ceramic shops, model building shops, cabinet shops, machine shops, and metal and wrought iron shops. Workshops must provide space suitable for heavy machinery equipment, if necessary, along with adequate open space for ventilation and circulation. Workshop layout and organization. A workshop layout refers to the placement of storage, machines, and workbenches in the confined space relative to each other. A poor workshop layout requires excessive traveling and handling between areas or may have too much disruption or clutter. Tools should be categorized in a workshop, and each tool can be organized further by having a designated and outlined location. Cabinets, chests, and lockers are means of providing storage for these group tools. If an open display and increased visibility is preferred, a pegboard or slat wall can be used to hang various kinds of tools, either on hooks or in baskets. Emergency procedures. When planning a workshop layout, the most important factor to consider is safety. Appropriate lighting, ventilation, and space work in combination to increase the safety of a workshop and must have fire extinguisher, first aid kits in case of emergency, and other safety equipment. Typical workshop equipment includes storage areas, a workbench, and stationary machines. It is important to note that tools themselves take up and require an amount of space, and this square footage increases when considering the operating space surrounding them. Workshop etiquette. All members of the workshop, including the facilitators, are expected to uphold the following group norms, which have been discussed and agreed upon by the group. First, treat each other with respect. Second, everyone has the responsibility to contribute to discussion in the form they feel most comfortable, example, written or spoken. Next, listen carefully while another person is speaking. Fourth, respect all members' right to speak and share their thoughts. One member should not dominate discussion. Fifth, direct arguments toward opinions and ideas, not the individual stating them. 6. Participants can ask questions at any time following a raised hand. 7. Begin on time and end on time. 8. Everyone may take a moment to step out of the room discreetly without explanation at any time. Last, cell phones should only be used outside of the room in emergency situations. Reminder: safe tool use contributes to a safer, more efficient work environment. Misusing tools is not only dangerous, it shows a lack of understanding of tool safety and a lack of respect for those around you. Also, if improper tool use causes an accident, downtime will impact the entire job. Workshop safety is actually more important than setting up your workshop. Most of the equipment and tools used in the workshop can be very dangerous in the wrong and untrained hands. Every machine and tool is made for a specific job, and care must be taken not to use it for something it wasn't intended for.